Live is on.
Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. It's April 16, 2021. Thank you to Clinton Ignatoff, the Netizen Supreme, for helping us, and he'll be back. Thank you, Clinton. And it is an honor and a pleasure to be here with Max. Now, Max, I'm going to let you pronounce your name correctly. Please.
Yeah, Gerry, well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thanks for for hosting us in this live stream. So my name is correctly pronounced Massimiliano, which is coming from the Latin Maximilian. So Massimiliano. Now, the reason why I'm called Max is that, I left Italy in 2003 for doing my PhD in UK. So I lived in UK for 6 years. And for people in there, it was very difficult to pronounce Massimiliano. So they started calling me Max and said, well, okay, Max. Then in 2007, I think, more or less, I moved to France, in Paris, where I lived for another 7 years. And I thought, okay, I'm in France. French is close to Italian. They will have no problem to pronounce Massimiliano. Was an item. So I said, okay, I'm Max. Max, easy. Just call me Max. So
I love it, Max. Thank you for that. And your last name is Bianchi?
Bianchi. So
Bianchi.
CH in Italian is K. So it's Bianchi.
Bianchi. Okay, here we go. The first question, Max, is what's the best thing for a human being?
Freedom.
Wow.
Freedom is the best thing ever. Now, again, you see, when you talk about human being, Gerry, we need to be, of course, it's, what I'm saying is subjective. There are probably some human beings that won't like freedom as much as I do. But freedom is everything. The freedom, the possibility to express ourselves. This is the most important thing and the best thing for humanity.
Yes. Oh, that was very good. And Max, what is your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
So information, it's by senses. So I use a lot of the senses. So you see the visual. So by looking at things. I'm a great observer. I always observe things a lot since I was a child, I have to say. So yeah, observing things and then hearing things. So essentially, by using my senses, and and this is why I'm so fascinated by nature, because all the inputs actually do arrive from nature.
Very good. Do you think? No. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because information will help them to survive. Human beings are animals, so all animals are, let's say, programmed to survive. We need to survive, and to survive, we need to be able to eat, to be able to drink, and to be able to reproduce. So informations are needed to survive.
Do you think, so you sort of implied using the word program, do you think this need or want to collect information in humans is more innate or more invented?
Well, it is innate. When you talk about information, if it isn't information, I'm being very scientific in here, okay? So it's kind of, evolutional theories, what I'm putting on the table. Yeah, it's innate. We need information. Our brain is a collector of information. It's a sponge for information, and then all the information is actually reworked in a way that can be used for again surviving. Yeah. We are survivors, Gerry.
Very good. I agree. Do thoughts create emotions?
They do. They do.
Yeah.
Mine in particular. So each single thought that I have. From the mind, I have many. My brain is just a waterfall of thoughts. It doesn't stop. It never stops. It's always been like that. And from each of those thoughts, I do have, emotions that are created.
Fill in the blank, Max. I don't know what I think until I blank. What would you say? I don't know what I think until I
don't know what I think until I will think the next thing.
Very good.
Because then I know that I stopped to think, the previous one. So yeah.
That's called reflect. That was good. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Meaning, I'm not a great believer in happiness. I mean, I don't really understand even you see, I don't understand the meaning of happiness. That's why I try to get meanings, because what does it mean, happiness? What is happiness? What is it? I mean, this is probably, some kind of term invented by humans to follow something that we don't know exactly what it is. Meanings are important. I do believe that each person has a scope, has a mission in life. So at least that's what I believe. So yeah, I look for meaning.
Beautiful. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness?
That's a difficult one, you see now, Gerry, because consciousness, we still don't know what it is. Consciousness, I cannot reply here as a scientist, you see, because the scientific idea of consciousness is still not very clear. We know it's there, we know it exists. Okay, that's a fact, it exists, but we don't know what it is. So the brain creates consciousness. Potentially, at the moment, my answer would be it's probably both, because I don't know. So it's probably both. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine. But your hunch, not scientific.
Yeah, we have different layers of consciousness. You see, maybe we don't have one single consciousness. So there are consciousness that are detected by the brain, and there are consciousness that are created by the brain. Right. So we can have, different layers. If I would completely take aside my scientific persona, and I would take more of my spiritual personas, I would be the artist in here. I would say that the brain detects consciousness.
We detect it, and it's there bubbling away, and we're sort of detecting it.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I like kind of. That's what I'm after, kind of. So, Max, what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Speed of thoughts. Speed of thoughts. Yeah, because we still, I mean, speed of light, we can measure it. We know what it is. We have a measure for it. We have a body for it. Speed of thoughts, we don't. We can't measure. And the thought can be, what? A femtosecond and a nanosecond, less than that. It can be extremely, extremely speed. So it's speed of thoughts, for sure.
Yeah. Max, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. No, I'm just kidding. So Audre Lorde, the great poet, said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. And Yvonne Rainer responded, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
Okay, now you see, this again, it's very subjective because it depends from how each individual will identify the master and who is the master, you see. Now, in my opinion, what also I'm trying to do, what I have decided to do in the last 3 years of my life, the creation of my company, which gave me complete freedom, and also my academic labs and, my artistic life. And, what I'm pursuing is this freedom. And for me, the master is the new society. The new society that has emerged in the last 20 years, which is a full, completely, wild, capitalistic society that is controlling us. And, and sometimes we don't realize this. This is the master. That's the way in which I see it. This is the master, is this wild capitalistic society. How to fight it? Well, yeah, you see, by using the tools that this society is providing to you. So I do business, okay, but I'm not a capitalist. But I will use the business, and I will use the same tools that the business is giving to us to provide a message of change. And this message of change also goes with creating new tools. So I will use the same tools, but I will use the same tools to help me to create new tools.
Yeah, that was brilliant. It really evoked, George Lakoff says, in order to change things, you got to use the existing language and create a new language. Same.
Well, there is no other way. There is no other way. I mean, the world in which we are living now, I mean, Gerry, it's so embedded in the human society that you need to use it. If you want to make your, for example, you need to be on the social media. If you want your message to go through, I'm not a great lover of social media, but I know that I have to use it to get my message to go through. Okay. Yeah. And so this is what I do. It's, yeah, again, the figure, of Ulysses, but the one from Homer in here, it's the Trojan horse. You need to forge Trojan horse for this society to go through.
Very good. Thank you. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Of not waking up the morning after. Yeah.
Wow.
That's very, yeah, it's pretty banal, because I think probably a lot of people worry about that. But yeah, that's my, not being able to wake up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Marshall McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the great poet, that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn how to cope with what we don't like about them. And so McLuhan said, look to the artists, filmmakers, writers, poets, and they'll uncover these hidden psychic effects, but we still ignore them. Why do humans still ignore the hidden psychic effects, even though we can have the artists reveal them to us?
Because it's always difficult for, most of the time humans have this attitude of not believing what they cannot understand.
Yeah.
And, humans are in reality very limited. We have this arrogance, because for the way in which our bodies form and our brain has been made in a way that we can use, we were talking about tools, we can use tools, and we can use, the intelligence to create, very complex society. But there are so many things that we cannot do, and, other animals can do. There is a complete world made of sounds and made of things that we cannot see, because we cannot perceive them. So, but what we say that those things don't exist because we don't understand them, but in reality they exist. So I think it's a lack of understanding. So the lack of understanding makes people, not getting those, kind of psychic message, as you were saying, from the artist.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks for being so concise and articulate, Max. This is fun. So McLuhan also said understanding is not having a point of view. How do you suss that line out? I'm not asking you to agree or disagree with it, but what do you think he's saying? Does it resonate at all with you? That understanding is not having a point of view.
Yeah, I think it is correct. Somehow you need to have a little bit of point of view, because only by having a point of view you can understand the others. But I would say that, understanding is most of all understanding the point of others, because this will help you to understand yourself. And look, I arrived to this conclusion only very recently, because, a few years ago, it was much more about me. And now I understood that if I want to understand myself, I need to understand the others first. And I can learn a lot. And I'm learning a lot. As our online readings that you're doing, together with Sweeney's, and adding all those souls together, and being so open in listening to what the others have to say. See the points of the others. It helps me to understand the point of me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's well put. He called it suspended judgment, but it's also like the great Pascal said, the mathematician, philosopher said, in order to understand anything, you have to understand this end of the spectrum and that end and everything in between. Like, good luck. Well, if you don't attach yourself to one, then you're more open to hearing them. But I like how you said it. Well, you have to have a little point of view. You can't just be wide open and not believe anything. So this again it's both, and it depends on the context. But in your general observation of humans, are they more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Okay, that's amazing question. That's very interesting question, because I did ask the same question to me many times. And you know what? I mean, my conclusion has been that we are all genetically different. And I think there are people that are potentially for a mixture of, you know, genes, or probably also a mixture of education that they received, the environment in which they lived. They are more kind of thinking being, okay? And then there are those that are completely feeding being. And then you have those that have both, you know? So you can have, you know, a complete thinking being, which, let's say, you know, a pure, you know, scientist, a pure mathematician, you know, that has to work with numbers and then formulas. And then you have the complete pure artist that is complete feeling, okay? And you don't know why you have this difference, you know, and maybe they're coming, you know, from the same cultural background, the same family, you don't know. So I don't know, maybe there is really, you know, a genetic explanation for that. But, you know, and then you have the two. You can have the two. You can have the mixed. So yeah, human beings are both.
Yeah.
They can go to the extremes, and they can go to have both of them.
Yeah. I actually, I don't think you can separate them, but because we invented the words, we can separate them. But I think with Bridget Bardot nailed it. She says, when I make love, I don't think. It's like, good luck. Are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
I'm afraid of old ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much a person that always looks into the new. I always look for changes and always looking for novel ideas. Old ideas, most of the time, not all the times, most of the times can frighten me, but it depends on where they're coming, okay? So if there are old political ideas, I can get, you know, pretty much frightened and scared, because, you know, the old world had some aspects that are even worse of the world we are living now. So, you know, those are kind of ideas where you always have to look, you know, with carefully. If it is, you know, kind of a scientific or artistic idea that is coming from the past, well, you know, I can look at it and maybe have some inspirations for forming new ideas. And anyway, new ideas never come out, you know, from a foundation that is from scratch. They have to be built from an old idea. So yeah, look at the old ideas, put them in the context. Some of them can be scary, but even the scary one, you know, you can take it and you can evolve it, not change it. Because it's always difficult to change things, anything, Gerry. But
Yes.
evolve things, that's different. Okay, it's like transforming something, not changing it, transforming, evolving it.
Yeah, it's really well done. This guy, Charles Kettering, said it well. He said, people are very open-minded about new things, as long as they're exactly like the old ones.
It is absolutely true. But, you know, also another reason why probably some people are not open, you know, to novel things is because being open to novel things, it means also to be open to take risks, because you don't know what the new thing will. And this is, you know, exactly what you were saying, you know, it's as long as the novel things looks like the old, because then you know what are the risks. Well, you know, sorry guys, you want to be new, you want to be innovative, you want to have novel ideas, you have to take risks. That's part. It comes together, you know. Novelty is risk. Novelty and risk, they go together. Otherwise, it's not new.
Yeah. Max, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Yeah. I need to think a little bit about it, because I don't have many memories of my childhood up to when I was 7 or 8 years. One memory, the first memory probably that I have, it's myself standing outside the school waiting for my parents to come to take me up.
Yeah. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, memory is everything, you see. Memory are very important. Memory are our life. We are everything, and we are the person that we are because of memories. And this is why, you know, some neurodegenerative disorders like, you know, Alzheimer are terrible disorders, because they make the person just an envelope. with nothing inside, because the memories are all gone. And so, yeah, memories are just who we are, and they made us who we are. So they're just important.
Yes. Max, tell me a role model, someone who had an impact on you within your immediate family, and then second, outside your immediate family. And specifically, just briefly, what was that impact?
Okay, so in my family, for sure, my mother is my example. So my mother is, she will be 89 the 1st of July. I hope to be able actually to go back to Italy and finally see her after almost 1 year. She's my example. She has been through the Second World War. She has been through a difficult life, difficult husband, a divorce, an only child to grow up. She became mother in Italy in 1974. She was 42 years old, not married. They married 4 years after I was born. So difficult life in a society where, women were still seen in a certain way that, it's not like today. My grandfather was originally from Sicily, so very conservative. So having a daughter, 42 years old daughter, come back home and says, well, look, I'm pregnant, not married. It's pretty something. And then she has been also an example for me because, she taught me about some very important ideals. Despite her little town of origin, which is called Sapri, in the southern of Italy, it's in the region of Campania, but that particular province is called Cilento. The Nazi were there, and the Nazi made the little town the headquarters. So she has memories. She was 10 years old. So she has kind of vivid memories about that period. And she's a strong anti-fascist. And so, and when in the 70s and the 60s, there was, the real feminist revolution, she was there. She was there. And she fought for the rights of women, divorce, abortion. We didn't have those things in Italy. We didn't, and she was there. And that was also a period, the 70s, where in Italy there was a coming back of the fascism, and she was a teacher at school, and she was defending some rights. And, when she still as memories of that, and she was to tell me this, it's for me a great example. It's a great woman. It's really a great woman. And even the way in which she has gone through this pandemic, all by herself, alone, without seeing, the sun. Pandemic was the last thing for her to also experience, but she's experiencing that, and she's doing amazingly. So her resilience and their strength towards staying alive, it's just a great example to me. So this is internal, this is the part of my family. External, well, this is a question that I already had. I have three main kind of models. One is Christ, Jesus Christ, but not seen as a religious figure. I've never seen Jesus, even when I was a child. I've never seen Jesus as a religious figure, as an historical figure. The kind of message he was giving is a message that I like. It's a message of universal brotherhood, of peace, of equality, of gender equality. That was, we talked before, about the world beyond. That was really beyond. So it is a model for me. But again, nothing to do with religion. I don't believe to be, I probably am a Christian, but not a religious Christian. And I don't practice, I don't go to church. So the second model, Ernesto Che Guevara as well, has been a model to me. When I was a teenager, I was very much into all those dreams and ideals of, the revolution. Now, there have been bad things that have been done and that come out of it, but intentions were very good. And what the man has done as a revolutionary. And I think the most important thing that he did was to leave Cuba to continue his revolution, and he died for that. It means that, his intentions were genuine and sincere. He was not looking for power. So that's the example, you see. He renounced to the power to go and follow his ideas, and he died for that. And then the third example, and I know the three of them are very different, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is a model for business for me. I mean, the way in which he innovated things and the way in which he was always looking, for novel things, and the way in which he changed the way to do business by creating a corporate that was completely out of any rule that corporate business had. That's a great example of, the pure mind of an innovator.
Really well put, summarized beautifully. Thank you, Max. So do you pray?
I do pray from time to time. Yes, I do. I do pray. And the relation that I have with whoever I pray, because I'm not sure what I'm praying, you see.
Yeah.
It's very intimate. Yeah, but I do.
Yeah. If God exists, what do you want God to tell you after you die?
Welcome back. And now you have to start again.
Dude, I started to cry, then I started to laugh. That was it. Laugh tears, the total Finnegan's Way. That was beautiful. Welcome back. Yeah, I went to a great black funeral once, and they called it, this is a homegoing. They didn't say they said it's a homegoing. I was like, that is the most amazing word, homegoing. Max, this is fun. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
That's a funny one. Yeah, that's really a funny one. I would say that, again, you see, sorry, I'm very Joycean in that. I would say that both of them do exist. In my last book, it's the last poetry book, is called Argo, and I'm actually, telling the story of evil people, but also of evil spirits. Okay, now the evil, it's inside any man. We all have it. And most of this evil doesn't born as something evil. It is a trauma. It is a trauma that we have. And that trauma needs to be nurtured and needs to be fed, and sometimes the food for the trauma is revenge. And revenge, and the seek of revenge, is what makes us evil, what can make us evil. Then again, it depends on what the person wants to embrace. If the person have certain maturity, or they've evolved towards a certain path, they understood that they have a trauma inside them that make them behave in a certain way that can be evil, then they can kind of face the evil and block it. Then if there is an evil that will take us, that also is possible. And again, I'm not talking about some kind of evil spirits and demons that may exist. I don't know. I don't deny their existence. But I think the most evil presence that can kind of possess us is the society in which we are living. It's this making us not only buyers but even products. We ourselves, me and you, Gerry, we are products. We are products in this very moment where we are talking, live streaming. We actually become products. Yeah. And it's commercial way to live is evil, in my opinion. Because when you become a product or a buyer, what you are killing is creativity and imagination And creativity and imaginations are life. So you're
Yeah.
killing life. So this is evil.
Yeah. Well put. And this question, Max, I'm going to set up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? Alan Watts said, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. Fellini says, I need an enemy. And Chinese proverb goes, he who cannot agree with their enemy will be controlled by them. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to the first one? Alan Watts, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I think it is correct. And again, it's something that I learn only with the time. Yeah, better not to acknowledge them.
Yeah. Now, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy?
So, you know, when you have to deal with enemies, there are different stages of, it's a battle. You have an enemy, a battle starts. Okay, is a battle, and the battle is made of different stages. So the first stage is to recognize the enemy. You need to recognize that you have an enemy, which is difficult for us, for human beings, the way in which we are made, especially nowadays. Not in the past. In the past was all about, you know, fighting and surviving, but now it's a little bit different. It's to make yourself aware of the fact that an enemy exists. There is someone that doesn't like you and that wants to destroy you, in brackets. So an enemy can exist. So you need to be aware that it's real and it's there, and that you have identified that. So that's the first step. The second step is that you have to go on the battlefield. So you need to fight the enemy. And, well, you need to win the battle. After you won the battle in some way, which doesn't mean that you destroy the enemy, but winning the battle, you can win the battle in different ways. You can even mean that you find a way to evolve in a different way where the enemy cannot make harm anymore, okay, cannot harm you anymore. So that's another way, okay? You don't need to destroy it. That's not what you need to do. It's you know, he will go ahead, it's his own business, but you can change yourself to evolve yourself in a way to protect yourself from the enemy. Then once you have reached that, there is the first stage. And the first stage is that you still know that the enemy is there. You know that you have evolved into something that can protect from what he wants to do. And the first stage is the most important one because he's ignoring the enemy. Then you start to ignore. And then it's done.
Yeah. So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin over 100 years ago, you know, Volta Cinema. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner says sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, we do live life. We do live life. But, you know, we also are very curious animals. So we need to see what the others do. So we are very interested into that. And we do also like to reflect our life into the life of others. So because maybe sometimes we don't want to really, we don't have the courage to look too much into ourselves. So easier to look into the others. And this is why we need the plays. You know, the plays are very good for that, and they're fantastic. I'm actually missing theaters so much, you have no idea, because everything is closed in Dublin since last year. You know, I was very much, you know, going to theater. I was enjoying, you know, the classical, you know, Oscar Wilde plays and the Samuel Beckett plays, which I love. And so it's a way to look at the others for looking inside yourself. This is why we need to recreate things.
Yeah. So tell us What first attracted you to two things in your path, Max? Writing poetry and being a neuroscientist. So just walk us through at what point you're reading poetry growing up, or how are you getting exposed to poetry? And then you say, oh, I can do that. And then you're understanding psychology, you're studying psychology, and you go, oh, I can be a neuroscientist. So just walk us briefly through the path of those two.
Yeah, so concerning the poetry, that started in, when I was 15 years old. I still remember that. I was 15 years old, and, you know, my parents divorced, and that was my trauma, you know. It went very well crystallized here in my reptilian brain that we have here in the back. And it wasn't there. It was a huge trauma, and I had to express my pain somehow. And I discovered that I had a way to express my pain and my sorrow. And that after that, I was feeling better. And I was writing. So I started writing poetry because of trying to find a way to get out of pain, trying to go ahead with my life. And so this is how I started. And then at that age, I was also starting to do some, you know, theater and some acting. And there was this director, was a school of acting, and, you know, I said, is there any of you writing poetry? And I was like, I'm starting to write a few things. So wonderful. Okay, so what did you write? Well, I said, well, I have a poetry called La Notte, the night. And I said, oh, can you just, you know, play it? And I was like, okay. And I just, you know, recite my poem. And he was like, this is beautiful. So next show we do, you will, you know, recite your poetry. You will perform your poetry. And I was like, okay, wow. Well, I did it. I was so nervous, but it was fantastic. And yeah, I remember that the director asked the lights to be completely switched off. And I even asked the public to close their eyes, to imagine in their brain the night. And then I recited the poetry. And that was it. But again, so I mean, and then I never stopped writing since now. Since I was 15 years old, I never stopped writing. Yeah. But I only realized that I was a poet when I arrived in Dublin, and when I started to go to Sweeney, and I met PJ, who is, you know, the managing director of Sweeney. And PJ was like, I don't know why he asked me that, or I don't know why he was feeling that I was a poet. And he said, do you write poetry? And it was like, yeah, I mean, I have a few things. Like, why don't you read your poetry in here from time to time? And then I started to do this, and he was like, you know, Max, I think you need to start thinking about publishing. And I was like, madam, come on, publishing, it's not important. He said, no, you need to explore that. And then anyway, by chance, I met an Italian writer, pretty famous one, called Dario Voltini. So he publishes with very good, you know, publishers in Italy, and I gave him a copy of what was supposed to be my first book, Odysseus. And he said, Max, this is good stuff. I will write the preface for you. I was like, what? You're writing a preface? So yeah, writing the preface for you, and you're gonna, you know, publish this book. Go and propose your book to some publisher. So now I have a publisher, it's called Oedipus Edizioni. It's a very nice, small, little, you know, publishing firm in the southern of Italy, and they are very privileged publisher for poetry. So it is my honor to be published by them. And this is when I actually understood, okay, I'm a poet. I'm a real poet now, and you know. And then there was the second book and the third one in preparation in English. So it's the English poetry, and then there will be the last volume of the trilogy of the poetic journey, Viaggio Poetico. The neuroscientist. Well, since I was a child, but very, very little child, I was always fascinated by nature, and I had this innate curiosity about how things work, but not things. Actually, I was not interested by things that were not alive. I was interested by things that were alive. So, you know, how do they move? How do they fly? How can, you know, the dog bark? How does that work? So I was so curious, and the colors, you know, the butterflies with all those colors, and something, the caterpillars that transform into a butterfly. That for me was like, how this is happening, And this is when I started to go around the countryside and collect, caterpillars and bring them home. And then I built little things, little homes for them and waiting for them to become butterflies. And actually that happened. I was, so they had this little cocoon, and then you have the caterpillar. It's transforming into a cocoon. And then the morning you wake up, Gerry, and there is no more cocoon. There is a butterfly inside the cage that you have created. And it's amazing, it's beautiful. And then you put a little pod of honey and you'll give freedom to the butterfly that will flew, to get the first little bit of honey, and then we'll go away. You open the window and it goes away. So this is when, I was asking I got my first microscope. I was 7 years old. I got my first professional microscope. I was 11 years old. It was the best present ever from my father. So I knew very well since I was a child that I wanted to do science. And I had a great love for nature. So then when I was 18 years old, I decided that I had to study veterinary medicine. And this is what I did. And I actually did it also because I thought that, that if I had to save lives, I would have preferred to save the life of an animal rather than of a human being. Now it's a little bit different. It's actually pretty different. Maybe at that time I had other things in my mind, whatever. But this is the decision why I decided to study veterinary medicine. And then I started to do research when I was at the second year of university, and I was an intern in the Institute of Anatomy in the University of Sassari in Sardinia. I went to Sardinia to study, and that institute had a tradition in neuroscience. And I already, I went straight to the lab. I wanted to go into the lab. I wanted to do research. And this is where my love for neuroscience started. And then I was pretty good in publishing, even when I was an undergraduate student. So I had some publications out. And then at a conference, I met a researcher from a pharma industry. And he said, well, okay, your work is very interesting. What do you know? Do you think your work can fit with depressive disorders, with depression? I was like, well, I'm actually, studying to become a vet. Honestly, I don't know very much about psychiatric disorders. Would you be interested to come over and do, your undergrad project with us? I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I probably have, to see how does all that fit with psychiatry. And then I said, but where are you based? Well, our research center is in Verona. Now, Verona is my hometown. Okay. So it was like, okay, bingo, let's take the opportunity. So I went there, I did my undergraduate studies in there, and I started to get, very much interested into psychiatry, despite, having studied veterinary medicine. And then after 3 years spent with them, I also, I got a position with them. I was, a research assistant at the beginning. And then I thought, okay, well, actually, they proposed me and said, Max, look, I mean, this is all very interesting. What about you prepare a luggage, prepare a bag, take a flight, go to UK, go to Nottingham, and take actually a PhD in neuropsychopharmacology? I was like, okay, fine, let's do it. And this is when I did it. Then I got my PhD after 3 years of where you don't see, PhDs in UK at that time, you don't see the light of the sun. You just work for 3 years and non stop. Well, I was able to do it. I got it after 3 years sharp. And this is when I realized, okay, I am a neuroscientist. This is my career. This is my path. I'm going to go ahead and try to do something. But try to do something not for having, only fancy publications, trying to do something for benefit people, to treat people. And this is why I'm so interested in pharmacology and in working with pharmaceutical companies. I want science to really make the life of people better, not to make us get, some nice academic titles or a lot of citations, and then what? It's like accumulating a lot of gold, accumulating a lot of wealth. Yeah. I don't need a golden coffin. I don't know what to do with that. If I have money, I spend it. If I have a talent for something, I use it to make people feel better.
Yeah. Really beautiful, Max. Thank you again. You're so concise and articulate. And just to stay on science for 1 second here and then into poetry. I've heard that science uncovers or discovers facts that can be interpreted many different ways. How do you suss that line out?
It is absolutely correct. You see, science reveal potential facts,
Yeah,
which can be interpreted in different ways.
yeah,
Science is not perfect because science is a human act, and human acts are not perfect. So it has a lot of imperfections.
yeah.
And interpretation, it's one of them. Science supposed to be, a fact which doesn't require interpretation. It's not true. Scientists is also to make interpretation. This is where, and this is actually when, Gerry, art as science will become closer to art. Because interpretations also requires some degree of imagination.
Yeah. Wow. So onto poetry. A screenwriting teacher, Max, told me that great art, great poetry, great film is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process writing poetry?
So my creative process is, I don't know if there is any intention in there. I mean, the intention that I have is to make into words what I feel and what I have experienced, but mainly what I feel, in a way that the reader can feel the feeling. And I know that to feel the feeling, my words have to create waves, not only of written words, but have to create waves of sound. Because we are sound, sound is everything. It's a lot of things in many forms. So my intention is that is to be able to transmit something. And when I do perform my poetry, the best compliment that I have is not when someone says, "Oh, this is beautiful, this is wonderful." No, it's when someone is coming to me with tears in the eyes and saying, "You made me feel happy, you made me feel sad, or you played a chord inside me." And that is exactly, if I'm able, with my own experience, with my own feelings, to touch the feelings of the others, it means that I've done my job as an artist. Because this is exactly what art is. Art has to talk to us, but has to talk to our feelings first of all.
Yeah, beautiful. T.S. Eliot said that poetry can communicate before it's understood. And I think that's accurate, reflecting what you just said. But I want to thank Duncan for encouraging me to go to the Dante group. Something in my wildest dreams, I would never go, wow, I got to go to a Dante group, and they read it in Italian, and then they read it in English. And it is such an amazing transforming experience for me, because it is a risk. It's like it's not, well, I don't know if I want to do this or whatever, but every Wednesday I'm so intrigued. My question is really simple. Max, when my hearing those Italian words, especially like when you and Sabrina and all the Italians read, it's like music, and it's beyond music. And I know it's communicating something. I don't know what it is. Do you think I should be looking at the Italian words as the Italian words are being recited, or I should be looking at the English words while the Italian words are being recited?
I think you should not look at any word at all. You should just listen to the sound and make your blood cell and your entire body to vibrate together with the sound. because whatever it is, though there are some primordial energies in the sound. You may not understand everything, or you will not understand everything, but something will arrive to you. So first, don't look at the words, just listen. And then if you want, go back to the recording and listen to the sounds and look at the words. But yeah, I mean, it's
okay. I love your answer.
A lot of music in different languages, and I not able to catch, the meaning of most of those different languages, but they are passing me something. They are.
No, I love your answer, but I want to know your second answer. If you were me, I look at the Italian words as the Italian words are being, but someone said, oh, do it the other way. What would you do if you were me? You're an American. You can't speak any.
Do you know Italian? How is your level of Italian?
I know no other languages. I studied Latin in high school, got straight A's, but I couldn't tell you anything, remembered nothing. But I'll tell you what I believe with Finnegan's Wake. You can hear Ulysses being recited, and you don't need the text. But with Finnegan's Wake, I believe it is a must. You have to look at the text as the words are being recited out loud. That is the whole point of the wake. But I'm just a side. What would you say? You're American. You never spoke any other language. You're going to the Dante group. When the Italian is recited, look at the Italian words or English words.
I will look at Italian words. But this is me.
Okay, that's what I do. I'm going to keep it that way. Okay, so if the pen, no, if clothing is an extension of our skin, knife and fork extends our teeth, and like the shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. This is McLuhan saying everything we invent extends some humanness. What does the writing utensil extend? Whether it's a pen or a keyboard, what humanness is extended by your writing utensil for you, Max?
So is your question what I use to write?
No, the question is what humanness does it extend? So the pattern, yeah, the clothing is an extension of our skin. Like we extended our skin by inventing clothing. So we invented the writing utensil, whether it's the keyboard or the pen. What is it extending for you? What humanness?
The writing, my writing.
What
my writing is extending, yeah.
Yeah, that's the verb you're using the utensil to do. So, it's like there's something.
Yeah, it's extending my tears.
It's extending your what?
My tears.
Ears?
Tears. My tears.
Oh, tears, extending tears. Oh, that's good. Extending tears. That's really good. My mother taught me to cry when you need to cry because you get toxins out of your body and you have emotional relief. You get two things, two major things. That is a very good answer. You really got that well. Thank you. So, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Compromise.
Yeah. Did you get that from the way your mom raised you or on your own?
On my own. That on my own. I mean, in the past, I would have been more like, okay, conviction. But now I know that sometime, not all the time, but sometime you need to go for compromise. For, how painful and terrible that could be. But sometimes it's the only way actually to reach your objective is to compromise.
Yeah.
And even if you want to be good to someone, you have to compromise sometimes with that person. So yeah, I would say nowadays I would say compromised, and it's coming from my own experience.
Yeah. And you've accomplished a lot, Max. Poetry, you're neuroscientist. Rate these three elements. What played the most important role, second and third role? So skill, luck, and ambition. What played the most prominent role, second and third of those three? Skill.
Ambition.
Say it again.
Ambition.
Ambition's one.
Ambition is one. Skill and luck.
Yeah. T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. Everyone has this dialogue inside their head. It's the voice inside their head, they say. What language is your inner dialogue in?
It's okay. So it's Italian in the morning, English in the afternoon, and French in the evening. Don't ask me why, but this is how it's working now.
Don't ask me why. That was beautiful. Okay, now the hidden question is, what form is your inner consciousness in?
I think my inner consciousness is in the form of, I see it as a form of light.
Light?
Light, yeah, light.
Yeah. That is beautiful, light. I asked this filmmaker in New York last year, what language is your inner dialogue in? She goes, I wish I knew. I like that. That was beautiful. Light is amazing. That is really, I've never had these answers like tears and light. That is unbelievable. So a filmmaker friend of mine, his mantra is ignore yourself. And another great filmmaker, Jonas Mekas, says, there is no self-expression. Jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this music just comes through me. So is art making, poetry making more self-expression or more whatever technology or culture is dominant? I know it's both and it depends, but which one do you think it's more?
I think it's more self-expression. I think it is, at least for me, it is really, really a vital form of self-expression, which it's probably independent from the culture or from the background where I am. Maybe because I traveled so much that I've been able to put a barrier. So yeah, maybe it's that. I never thought about it, but maybe all those traveling, all those meeting different cultures and different environments, was able to build a barrier. So it's really a form. It's really a form of self-expression. A form of self-expression that sometimes is independent from the self. It just come out almost unconsciously. You know how many times I go back, because I normally, my full creative process, I wrote a first draft, then I go back, and then I work on it. I have poetry that I've reworked after 10 years, and then I publish them. And then when I go back to the first draft, you know how many times I look at it and say, did I write this? Is that really what I mean? Oh, wow. So this is what I was feeling at that moment. Oh, I didn't realize that. You see, so it's a way of self-express, but sometimes in an unconscious way. But it's only that precise moment of creation.
Yeah.
Where you detach from everything.
Yeah.
Expressing yourself without being, conscious of doing it.
Yeah. It resonated with me, Max, because Frank Zappa and James Joyce says all times are happening now. So it's like, we did I write that? I've had exactly what you said happen to me. But the hidden ground to that question was, can art making, poetry making be egoless?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think they can. Yeah, I think they do. I mean, and again, this is something that I thought many times. You see, you know, when my poetry is mainly centered to myself, to be honest with you, or to myself, or to the nature. I've been rarely interested to the others, if only if the others were involved in my stories. And yeah, is sometimes art as a form of self-expression can make you not egocentric. Let's use a more soft way to self-centric, probably a little bit. Yeah.
What was the motive of the cave artist? Not what anthropologists say or Herzog or whoever, but just your gut feeling. What was the motive of the cave artist?
Again, I think there was something. I mean, we have an innate. It's in the human. It's not only humans, because we know that also other animals do express themselves in way to create. So yeah, it was there's something inside that we need to express somehow. Okay, something that we have experienced. So seeing an animal, okay, and going and hunting for the animal, and that animal represents, they survive. It's a great thing. It's a great challenge, and the animal is precious. You want to represent the precious things. You want to express it somehow. You want to have it out. You want to say, okay, you see, this is what I saw. This is what I want. This is so. It's again, this is linked to even one of your first questions, this looking for information, and even the pleasure of passing this information to other. You see, for that's my gut feeling. It's just the pleasure of I've reached something that gives some form of joy, like hunting an animal and eating it because you will survive. And so you express this, and you want to express it in a form that you're capable of doing, which then it's become a form of art. And what they've done in those caves, I've seen some recent discoveries. It's just of an amazing beauty, because it's so primordial, but it's in the being primordial that is the first expression of the human being representing something, its own perception of things. There is a beauty in there that is magical and unique.
That was good. It really evoked in me. I was talking to my friend about Carl Jung, and he says, well, you use the word precious, and she said, Jung said something like, everybody must worship something. It's like we have to. So this preciousness or worshiping something is important. But back to the word ego, you handled that beautifully. Was Freud right?
Well, I think yeah, I think it was. I mean, and it's very good you're mentioning Freud, because it's been one of my early readings. When I was a teenager, I've been influenced by Freud a lot, really, really a lot. Yeah, he was right. And the ego, it's extremely important. We know all these different layers, and yeah, so yeah, he was absolutely right.
Yeah, that's fun. This big shot Hollywood director, we saw his film, and it was about psychology and three. It's called Three Christs, and I'm asked the question from the audience: was Freud right? And he goes, "That's beyond my pay grade." then later in the discussion, he sort of brought it up because his film was all about mental health, and you can't avoid Freud's influence on this whole thing. So our whole study. So it leads into this one. Well, is perception reality?
Yes, perception is reality, in the sense that what we perceive is for us reality. Maybe it's not for others, okay, because perception can be different from subjects to subjects, okay. Individually, perception can be different, but if we, I don't know, if we perceive that a person, for example, going back to the evil, is doing evil to us, but we have a perception, that perception is reality. As it is reality, everything that is around us, this bottle, the color of this bottle, the color, I mean, colors, do colors exist? I don't know. It's a reflection of a light that my eyes is taking up. It's a perception of something, but my brain make me feel it's reality. So the answer is very straight. Perception is reality.
Yeah. Yeah, another friend of mine goes, "That's all you got." So McLuhan probed Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, saying, "Artists dream awake." We all have this, all humans have this creative powers in the middle of the night when we're sleeping that create something. But artists, and not to be elitist, but artists can also use those creative powers while they're awake. So have dreams played a role in your creative process, or how?
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, that creative thing that is there is actually the one that doesn't make me sleep, So my dreams are very limited because the bloody creative things never goes to sleep. So my brain is always like that. So actually nights are very good, but also because probably during the day I'm very busy. But nights are amazing to express my creativity. And the few hours that I sleep, I do dream. And some dreams can be vivid. And I can wake up and write straight away out of the dream. I can do that. I still remember there is one poetry which is called Compagna di Dublino, which is a friend of Dublin, and it's dedicated to a friend of mine who's called Claudia, and now she lives in Berlin, Germany. And I had this strangest dream ever. Okay, so I was in a kind of strange, wild place, and there was a pond with frogs. Okay, fine. Then I cross a bridge. The bridge was over, this pond with frogs. I cross the bridge. Then I take a path, and on the path I cross a llama. Fine. And the llama was looking to me like this. Now, when I was young, I actually, to pay my first year of university, I worked in a zoo. I worked in a zoo in Verona, and I had to take care of the llama. And this is maybe, why, I have this kind of memories about the llama. Anyway, it was a llama looking to me, doing like this, and I was like, okay, it's going to spit on me. That's hopefully not, because I don't know if you ever experienced that, but yes, but I was working in the zoo. When they spit on you, it's the last thing that you want to experience in your life. It's horrible because it's smelly, it doesn't go away. You can take as many showers you want, it doesn't go away. Anyway, there is a llama. Okay, fine, frogs and llama. And then I continue the path, and there is a sort of little hill, and on the top of the hill, there is a tiger. Now, my Chinese zodiacal sign is tiger. I'm 1974. I was born in 1974. And the tiger is looking to me in a very aggressive way. And then it just turned the back and goes away. And then I woke up. And the first thing that I do is I call Claudia on the phone and say, Claudia, I have a very strange dream. I mean, I saw frogs, a llama, and a tiger. I was like, yeah, okay, you're crazy. I was, well, this is not new. Everybody knows that I'm crazy. So what I have to do? Well, I don't know, just write about it. And it's like, okay, fine. And I wrote a poetry. And where I talk about the frog, a llama, and the tiger. So it's, if dreams, so real dreams, the vivid dreams when I sleep, they do influence me. Yes, they do. If dreams that I have when I'm awake, and I have many, dreams are fundamental for me. Dreams, awake dreams. Without dreams, I would be nothing, because dreams set the objectives of what I want to reach. Everything starts as a dream for me before. And so, they do influence me very much. If I sleep and if I don't sleep, if they're real dreams or open-eye dreams, they do influence me a lot. My poetry is full of it. It's all about them. There is one poetry in English called The Dreaming Child. So, yeah.
That was super. Max, I dropped that question from my normal 50. I have 150 questions, but for some reason I was like, I'm going to ask him this one. I haven't pulled this one out for a while. That was beautiful. And you know, I used to follow it up. Can you describe a dream? Because most people can, but the way you described it was very poetic. So why is it so difficult for humans to consider that life may be pointless? I'm not saying life is pointless, but why is it so hard for humans to consider that it may be?
Because maybe they really don't have an objective in life. If they would have, a real objective in life, they would really think that life is not. It's a little bit of a paradox in here, you see, because if you set yourself an objective, even with that objective, that you may reach it, but that life would be pointless anyway, because whatever, who cares? So yeah, there is a little bit of paradox in what I say, but yeah, probably they don't realize that it's pointless because they live without following an objective. So they live without seeing really something that will make them understand that even if you reach it, actually life will be pointless. And it is true that most of the time, if not all the time, life will be pointless, because even if you reach your objective, or even if you want to do good or something, that you will be remembered, at the end of the day, life will end. And the ending of life make it pointless if life really ends, because maybe life continues in other lives, as we said before, welcome back, you're gonna start again. So
yeah, that was good. Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Well, yes, yes, I did. Yeah, I did believe in impossible things. I mean, it's, I believed for a certain period of time, when I was waking up every morning at breakfast before this pandemic, for example, that my mother was immortal. She will never die. And then I realized with this pandemic that this is impossible. It's impossible to think that someone that you care so much is immortal. She is, and she's very fragile and very exposed. And what happened opened me the eyes on many things that in reality are impossible. Not only, the fact that the person that you care can die and can be exposed to that, but also to the fact that, yeah, we talked before about, egocentricity and selfishness and all that kind of things. It is impossible to have a good life if you only take care of yourself.
Yeah. No, that was beautiful.
We are a community.
Yeah.
And it's impossible also to continue to stay in this planet if we don't stop to consider human beings as superior to the planet we are living. It's impossible for humans to live without this planet.
Yeah, really well put, because I do rejoice at the fact that Zoom has enabled us to have this interview and join together in community and read books together. This is like an amazing way to gather the world in sharing literature. So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength. We're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Can you tell me a weakness that you've incorporated to become a strength?
Well, one weakness that I have is that, I'm a very transparent person. I'm crystal clear. I have no problems to talk. So my weakness is to talk about my weakness to people. I have absolutely no problem, and if you follow, the rules of, the nowadays society or business. A real leader should never show her weaknesses. Well, I will never stop to show my weaknesses. But you know what? I've incorporated this into my strength, because I think that if you show your weaknesses, you're transparent about your life, you show your emotions, it means actually that you are not afraid that someone will use those weaknesses against you, because you're stronger.
Yeah.
So showing my weaknesses became my strength.
Yeah. Boy, that is good. That's inspiring. Thank you, Max. And so in your years of writing poetry, you've been writing it many years. Tell me one major element that stayed the same and one major element that's changed.
Well, one element that stayed the same, well, there is I think the relation with my father stayed the same for a long time. The conflictual relationship with my father, and was very much represented in my poetry, in a hidden way, in a less hidden way. I mean, all of this is all the first book. Some people maybe don't understand, and this is fine. You don't need to understand the full meaning of the poetry. You need to make it your, and feel what the poetry is passing to you. But that element then changed and evolved when my father passed away, and my poetry evolved, and they evolved together. Also, the style in which I was writing. I was very much careful about the structure, the readings, almost to an obsessive point. Like really looking, and counting, the lectures, and counting, in a way to be perfect with the structure. But then I evolved into something else. Like the sound was more important than the structure. It was more the sound driving me. And then I realized that what I've done for all my life, and what I do every day for almost, for all the hours that I stay awake during the day, is that I always listen to music continuously. There should be a reason for that. And so, and by embracing my natural attitude towards the sound and the music, I think that I evolved in this change, and I evolved my way to write. And this will become even more evident in my next books, for sure.
Beautiful. And Max, fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when?
When you can express the anger in another way that is not by breaking things that surround you. So if you can express anger by a form of art, then yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. What's the most significant difference between women and men, physical aside?
I don't see any difference. I really don't. I really don't see any difference. Because you put the physicality aside.
Yeah.
But I have never seen any difference. And I honestly, I don't like to talk about, men and women, and even in my company, and that's, I prefer to talk about person. And this is, and because I want a good gender balance on both sides, you see, both on the women and the men. And to be honest with you, I honestly don't see any difference, because you can say, even this fact of saying, women are more sensitive than men and men are more practical. This is a human creation. I know men that have, highly sensitive people, and women that are very practical. So it's that really was the human invention that was imposed and put on the gender. Apart the physicality, and apart the beautiful thing, that women can generate life that makes the real difference, that we can't.
Yeah.
Can't. I really, honestly, and it's a genuine answer. I don't see any difference.
No, I'll tell you, I get that answer every once in a while, and I'm always so impressed that people can recognize that, because the question implies that there is. And I love that you said that, because I agree with you in many ways. How do you find peace of mind?
By switching off the lights in my room nowadays that I cannot go out. Switching off the lights, putting up a candle, and putting out a nice vinyl of Nick Cave and the bed seats, and then I'm done. Glass of whiskey, Kamiki, the best Japanese whiskey, and I'm done. When I can go out, peace of mind is nature. In the middle of the nature, in front of the sea, just watching the waves, the seagull, or whatever is flying, and then I'm done. And this is my peace of mind.
Beautiful. Max, if you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Well, I would just say, don't worry, go ahead. There is a nice future. And just continue to do what you're doing. Just enjoy what you're doing. Let's just enjoy what you're doing. Just go ahead and enjoy. Don't worry.
Beautiful. Tell me something good you never had, but you never want.
Family.
What's the word?
Family.
Oh, family. Yeah. You mean your old.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not married. I don't have kids. It's something good, probably, but I don't want it.
I understand. So I got a couple more, and then we'll bring Clinton on. This one is 5 quick questions from Alan Watts. Just short answer, couple words. Who started it all?
I have no idea.
Are we going to make it?
Oh, yes, sure.
Where do we put it?
For the moment, in the drawer.
Who's cleaning it up?
We have to do it.
Is it serious?
Nothing is serious. It's all a joke.
I love it. So, if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Sorry, say it again, Gerry.
This is a question I've been leaving out, but because of the Dante group, I thought, if you were in a vat of vomit,
all right, okay,
and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Well, if I'm in a bag of vomit, I will just take the shit and that's it. What I have to do. If I'm there, probably there is a reason. I will take the shit and that's it. Finish. I mean, that's probably that happened already. I mean, not in a metaphorical point of view, probably that happened already. I will take the shit and I will go ahead. And then I will try to get out the pond of vomit. That's it. I won't do anything. What can you do? If you are up to the vomit up there, we just take the shit in your face. That's it. I mean,
Max, this has been amazing, because the gentleman who taught me that question, and I do sort of avoid it, I can tell if the person's willing, is, he basically said that wherever he got that question, he used to hang out with Billie Holiday and Charles Mingus and Damon Runyon, an amazing human being that I used to talk to. He said, well, it's a funny sounding question, but it's basically a metaphor of life. You really nailed it, because people have said amazing answers to it, but some of them are like, what? They can't handle it. So Thornton Wilder said that art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've laid your cards on the table for 80 minutes. Amazing. You've really said a lot, and I appreciate it. And I'm not implying with this question you haven't. What's it really all about for you?
It's about making the difference and do something important that will help people that is in need of. And honestly, it is a genuine answer. It's all about doing something.
Yeah. Beautiful. So this has been enlightening. We'll bring Clinton on. He'll ask you a question or two, and then I'll end it up. Thank you so much. And Clinton, thanks for listening. This gentleman we have helping us actually listens, and it's always a pleasure. What do you got, Clinton?
Oh, I love it. Thanks for doing this with me, Gerry. And yeah, it's been very interesting, Max. Fantastic. I'm one thing really stuck in my craw though. I don't like Steve Jobs at all. I loathe what he's done, right? And it's funny. I think it's got a lot to do with how when you answered Gerry's question about how you were always curious about how things worked, and then you had to clarify it. You were curious about how nature worked and life, and I suppose biology and whatnot. So I'm wondering what sort of computer metaphors come up in neuroscience nowadays when people are trying to describe the mind or human being.
There is not much. You know why? I mean, there was probably in the past much of a computer metaphor that was used, to compare the brain to a computer or a network. Or now we don't. You know why we don't use that anymore? Because we have artificial intelligence now. So somehow the brain has been made a computer already, and this artificial intelligence, it's working pretty well, and it's actually serving science in a very pretty way. So that metaphor that maybe in the past, we were using it, and maybe, the system of, a computer that is working for Windows, like, the Apple did at the beginning, was kind of, being fast and quick as the brain thinks, it's easy to do. It was probably a good metaphor at that time, but no, we don't see anymore the brain as a computer, we see the computer as a brain.
Yeah.
See, that's very interesting because I'm thinking about perception being reality, and so people perceiving computers as brains, they're not biological, they're just circuits, they're not right. There's nothing inside the computer. It makes us feel there's a space inside of it, but there's nothing there at all. There's just the machine and then the flat screen, and then it's all in our heads what we see inside of it. So it's interesting that because the metaphor used to be 70 years ago, they would explain to people, oh, this machine here, it's like a brain in a box. And then people started looking at humans. Oh, they're like, the brain is like a computer. It processes information. So are we getting more and more into a perception becoming a reality, or was it true the reality all along that?
Okay, so my answer to Gerry about perception being reality is really based on the fact that what we perceive as human beings is a reality for us, but it's our own perception. The way in which we are now creating those machines, those artificial intelligence, where we actually, we are making the computers and the machine a brain, but still there is the human intervention, and the human intervention is to we are tuning those machines towards perceiving things as human does. We tune them, so what they give to us is what we see, but we tell us to give us what we see in the way in which we perceive. If we would have, I don't know, someone coming from another galaxy, from another, that perceive things in a different way, we probably tune those machines in a different way. So yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah,
that was really good, Clinton, because what it evoked also is a commonality we have is reading Finnegan's Wake out loud with a group of people is a living organism. But the book is a book, and it's words. And we put in those ink on white paper, we put that there's something that it's living. And I always say we could be reading People magazine as a group, and there'd be no difference. And most Wakians go, that's what I know. Joyce wrote something important. And I think Joyce would agree that it's just the act of gathering people to share something like a machine in a box. So that's like when TV came into the living room, it caused the family all to sit there and banter about what's going to be on or what's on. Whereas in the movie theater, you weren't so much involved as a group doing it, sort of like a living organism, you know. So I think we try to put everything into what Max said earlier, AI, right? When you came on, Clint, AI is what I like to do is flip it to McLuhan's line IA, which is integral awareness, where if you integrate your awareness and see the picture that we can, you know, because people are scared, oh my God, AI is going to do this and that, you know, and just in regards to Max bringing up his mother, you know, this came up with Sherry Turkle's talk, you know, MIT, great person studying how our machines are affecting us. She says, well, now you can buy a robot dog for your grandmother, and say your grandmother is allergic to dogs. So she can have a pet in her room, probably helping her, and it's a robot dog, and it will never die. So the bad thing is she won't have to experience death again because her husband died, or her grandkids are dying, or whoever's dying. She won't. It's like, you know, that they think that this, you know, is going to be a better thing for the human. Now, like we know from studying McLuhan, it has services and disservices. So the robot dog has services, but it also has disservices, because her experience in the death of the dog might strengthen her and allow her to live another year.
Well, that's the risks that Max was talking about. Knowing a thing entails taking a risk in venturing to know it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other point, if I can do a a joke on what you just said, it's probably better not to say to the old lady that it's a robo dog. Better to say it's a robot, not a robo dog, because otherwise she will put all that you have thought that she will perceive it as a real dog. So maybe she may even somatize the allergy somehow. So whatever, but it just tell her it's a robot. Don't say it's a robo dog.
Right? No, it is really a good point, and it's how we talk and use these tools of words. So, you know, the beauty, Max, that you've done is you've taken this thing with words called poetry and this thing with words called neuroscience, and you're like in the middle. And you can tell, I'll tell you, I just got to express my gratitude for just introducing Dante's Inferno that little bit before we get started every Wednesday is just so enlightening and really fun. So it's been really fun. I got two more and then we're out of here. Thank you so much, Clinton, and thank you, Max. What's the most impactful cultural shift you see developing today, Max?
It's moving from a wild capitalistic society to a new society that may take the good, because we have good also in capitalism, the good from capitalism and merge it with a new socialism. That would be the real change. And you know what, Gerry? I feel the wind. I do feel the wind. But wind needs people that believe in it. If you don't believe in things will not happen. You need to believe and you need to act. So this is why I think each of us has a responsibility that has to come out from this pandemic. And who feels to take this responsibility has to take it and try to make the change happening, because it can happen. There are monsters out there. There are monsters, but there are also a lot of very good people.
Yeah.
So just believe in them and give them voice, and let them act.
Yeah. They say 2 people talking is a revolution. So 3 people talking could be even better revolution. And so last question, Max, thanks again. What gives you the most optimism?
Again, seeing that in reality there is some much good people out there, and also see a new generation of young people that has so much care and attention, to the health of our planet, and cares about so many important things. I can see there is a new generation emerging, and I have a lot of faith in that generation. As I have a lot of faith in. I still, okay, I may be sometimes, cynic or pessimist or whatever, but I still believe in human beings, and I still believe there is good people, and it's time to believe in them. And this gives me optimism. I mean, my optimism is based on the humans that we have. We still have good people out there.
Yeah. Well, the first question and the last question are connected, because what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said, other people. And at the end of his life, they asked Groucho Marx, what gives you the most optimism? And he said, other people. So it's been so much fun sharing this time with you. Max, thank you so much. And Clinton, thank you.